Hello everyone, this is the Spider Fanboy here, and I am going to start a new Dragon Ball What If series. It is going to be what if Piccolo joined Goku and Gohan in their training in the hyperbolic time chamber to fight against Cell. Ooh. So this is going to start, just after Vegeta and Trunks leave to go face off against Cell. They've just come out of the time chamber, and before Goku and Gohan go in, Piccolo actually stops them and he offers to join them. They're initially confused, although um, Piccolo is quick to clarify now that he has his own memories, now that he has the memories from Kami, how exactly this is going to work. Sorry, let me go on ahead. I have to take care of something just real quick. That he clarifies that the way the room works when it comes to the two-person limit, is that that's more based around the fridge's ability to generate food throughout the day. Throughout the day, it can only generate enough food for two people to eat for 2 years. But he explains that as a Namekian, he does not need to eat food, and what little sustenance he needs is gained from water and occasionally sunlight. Either way, he's going to be able to train in there without any need for food. So he'll be able to join in as an extra person to also help refine Gohan's own power and to give Goku a proper challenge while Gohan catches up. So they end up accepting, and he joins them in their training in the Room of Spirit and Time. Now, we don't really get a proper timeline as to how quickly Gohan attains and masters Super Saiyan. But if I remember correctly, how long? I'm pretty sure Goku and Gohan were only in the time chamber for about 20 hours, which would equate to about 10 months. Yeah. How old was. I'm pretty sure they were only in. No, they left about 3 hours early. So they ended up missing out on about 2.5 months of training, since it's 12 months to 24 hours. That would mean that every hour is about 2 months. So if they left 3 hours early, wait, if they left 3 hours, yeah, no, sorry, every 2 hours is 1 month. 2 hours is 1 month. So if they left 3 hours early, then they missed out on just about a month and a half worth of training. Not too crazy, but this is where Piccolo being around is going to come into play. So obviously Piccolo being around with him being around the level of the androids, he's powerful enough to give Goku a proper challenge in terms of a sparring partner in Super Saiyan, and he's able to help push Gohan. Maybe he gets it a little bit earlier. I always figured he ended up reaching it about the 2 to 3 month mark. Here we say that for sure he ends up reaching Super Saiyan over the course of the first 2 months, and maybe instead of when it comes to better create making the Super Saiyan form much more efficient, Piccolo is able to help streamline this, since with his own constant meditation and constant ki control, the way he's able to develop his techniques, maybe to help Gohan gain even better control over his output in Super Saiyan. He teaches him techniques like the Makanko Sapao and the Hell Zone Grenade and the Light Grenade. All techniques which are focused around key control, concentrating that key, and building it up for maximum efficiency and power. So he helps him learn these over the first couple of months, after maybe months like 4 through 8 over the course of the training. Gohan is going to pick up on these techniques, and when it comes time, they're about 10.5 months in. Goku is about ready to get everyone to come out of the chamber, but Piccolo, he, or let's say that Goku ends up bringing up, like, he thinks they're strong enough, and since they've been able to grow quicker, we'll say this happens around the 9.5 month. So they have about 2.5 months left worth of time in the chamber. And he's like, I think we've grown strong enough. Maybe we should leave the chamber. But Piccolo is worried about Cell's strength. He's worried that with Krillin's own with the way Krillin is, and Cell's with the way Vegeta is. Vegeta mainly is who he's worried about. That he may let Cell go into his final transformation, and seeing how powerful Cell was when they initially fought, and knowing that he most likely that he already absorbed Android 17, he's worried over how powerful he's going to become if he ends up reaching that perfect form of his. So here he stops Goku and Gohan, and he actually asks Goku a question. He tells him, the reason you wanted to, you said that with all our training, you feel that Super Saiyan is essentially your base form, correct? And Goku is kind of confused as to where he's going with this. He's like, yeah, that was the whole plan, to maximize the efficiency and lessen the strain. So that we can, so he's like, yes, so that you can fight as if you're in base. And then he points out, in base, you're able to make use of the Kaioken. And this is where Goku's like, huh, yeah, I can. What about it? And he says, do you think it's possible for you and possibly Gohan to use Kaioken on top of Super Saiyan? And that gets him to kind of stop, and he pauses and he thinks, and he says that maybe they'd need to practice it and he'd have to teach Gohan, but with how quick Gohan has progressed in terms of ki control and everything, he thinks that, well, maybe with the time we have left, I'd be able to make some decent progress and even teach it to Gohan. He's been able to master Super Saiyan so quickly over the course of like less than a year. He was able to master Super Saiyan and reach the point where he was able to access Super Saiyan 2, whereas Goku in canon had it for like 5 years. If you include the 3 year time skip, the year and a half he was out in space training on Yardrat, and his training in the time chamber, he had it for like definitely over 4.5 years. And he was only then in the time chamber able to realize the potential of full power Super Saiyan. And he wasn't even close to reaching Super Saiyan 2. Gohan mastered Super Saiyan in less than a year and was on the verge of unlocking Super Saiyan 2. I honestly thought that if he kept up his 7 years of training, he would have been able to go Super Saiyan 3, but that's going to be something else. Either way, Goku kind of decides, maybe that would work. And he actually decides, maybe this would be better as an alternative than to pushing Gohan into using that hidden power. He might actually be able to take care of it himself, and if not, this would give Gohan the edge he would need instead of an unreliable burst of power. That was the glimpse of Super Saiyan 2 that he and Piccolo saw. And he definitely let Piccolo in on the plan, and Piccolo was disapproving of it, which is definitely one of the reasons why he's decided to push himself in this training. Um, and he even decides to learn the Kaioken for himself, so that all three of them are going to be learning to use Kaioken at their current levels. So, with 2.5 months of training, if Gohan was able to reach Super Saiyan, I don't think it would be too difficult for him to develop Kaioken and learn how to use it on top of Super Saiyan, since it's basically their base forms. Maybe it'll be a bit difficult, but they'll be able to manage it in the 2.5 months, especially with all the key control training he's been doing on the side with Piccolo. So this is what I would put them as. This is still Super Saiyan, so it's going to be more stressful. So they're only able to use a times 5 comfortably, like similar to how Goku on Namek was able to use times 10 and was able to push it into times 20 for brief bursts. They're going to be able to do that here, but with times 5 being their comfortable level and times 10 being their burst, what they use as like a finisher. And they're definitely going to be stronger just naturally in terms of Super Saiyan. And maybe he doesn't learn Spirit Bomb, but maybe Goku also decides, nah, that'll be something else. That maybe he ends up learning it later. But here, yeah, Gohan has been completely dedicating for these last 2.5 months to learning the Kaioken, and Piccolo himself learns how to push it to times 10 and to times 20, similar to what Goku was able to do on Namek. He's definitely stronger in terms of base. Maybe he could push it farther, but this is what he's comfortable with controlling. He can go like times 10. He has like his middle ground of like straining himself, but not like threatening to lose control of the power at like times 15. So times 10 is kind of as comfortable. Times 15 is what he would use in a very serious battle, and times 20 is what he would use as like a final push. Kind of like Goku with times 2, times 3, and times 4 in the battle against Vegeta. So they leave the time chamber, and they're all at around a similar level of power towards one another. Goku's actually able to cross that gap a little bit. And Gohan himself, during these last 2.5 months, since he's been pushing his Super Saiyan power so far, he's actually more aware of the fact that he has Super Saiyan 2, something beyond Super Saiyan, a more natural evolution. He's actually going to be made aware, and this is where Goku and Piccolo bring him in on the plan that Goku initially made, which he's modified with Piccolo in now, especially since Gohan is in on the fold. And they end up making their plan so that they initially plan to go straight for Cell. They initially, when they get out, they'll take a sensu bean and go for Cell as soon as possible. But then they get out, they learn about Cell and how he told them to watch the news. So they're gonna take whatever time that they can to rest and to adjust to their power levels. At least for Goku and Gohan, since they have to adjust to this new level of Super Saiyan still, just a little bit. And being out of the time chamber, it's definitely taxing on their minds. So they're gonna be taking this time to relax. But Piccolo, who kind of fell behind in terms of power, the Super Saiyans were starting to really surpass them again. He actually has a plan, and he tells Vegeta and Trunks to be ready to jump in the time chamber with him tomorrow. He's going to be taking a day off, but he tells them not to go in just yet. He's going to help them reach the level of Super Saiyan that Goku and Gohan have achieved, and he's going to help strengthen them up, as well as to improve his own Kaioken mastery. So they end up learning about the Cell games. Maybe since Trunks is going to be training with Piccolo and Vegeta once more in the time chamber for their second round for all three of them. We can say that Gohan is the one to watch on the news and learn about the Cell games, and that they're gonna have the 9 days. So yeah, and then Piccolo, because of this, Vegeta and Trunks end up reaching Mastered Super Saiyan, full power Super Saiyan. They don't learn how to go into Kaioken, but since they're more improving and fully dedicating themselves to learning full power Super Saiyan, Trunks, in his own frustration and his failure to take down Cell in the time chamber, briefly, similarly to Gohan, briefly goes into Super Saiyan 2, and he's also made aware of the fact that he can use it if he needs to. Maybe he has a little bit more control over himself in it, but both Gohan and Trunks are aware of Super Saiyan 2, and the fact that maybe if they push themselves in a battle against Cell, they'll be able to properly unlock it for themselves, so that they can use it more effectively. But they haven't been able to properly train in the form. They're aware of it, but not of exactly how to go about using and mastering the form. But yeah, we're gonna have four full power Super Saiyans, and this is how I'm gonna have them in terms of power. So Vegeta and Trunks are going to be around the same level as Canon Goku and Gohan, and Goku and Gohan. Goku is probably going to be around the same level as Canon Gohan. So Goku is actually about the same power as Trunks. Trunks has managed to keep up with him, but he does have the edge with his Super Kaioken, uh, which he's able to push up to times 5, and for brief periods of time, all the way up to times 10. Gohan himself is probably almost Super Saiyan 2 Gohan level, just in his own normal Super Saiyan. He's trying, his potential is finally starting to show itself with Piccolo around. He is able to help him get into a better mindset for this battle. And for like the last few days, it's spent not only relaxing, but he's also doing some meditation with Piccolo, and he even brings Trunks in on it since he knows that his future self trained Trunks. So maybe he convinces Trunks to join him and Piccolo, and you kind of get the three of them, the three users of the Masenko, to do some meditation up until the Cell games. And here they have a bit of a plan. So they're gonna have Piccolo, who is actually around the same level as Gohan, and can push his own Kaioken to even further levels. He's now able to use it up to times 15 with comfort. Like that's like his really lower state. He can push it up to times 25 with some strain, and then he can push it up to times 35 as his absolute limit. That's what he was mainly focusing on when he wasn't training Vegeta and Trunks into maximizing the efficiency of the Super Saiyan transformation. So They have their plan in what order they're going to be facing Cell. They know that Cell really wants to fight off against Goku, so he's going to be leading the battle. He's going to have that first battle with Cell, and he's not going to give him a goddamn sense of being. He's able to put up a much better fight, but they don't reveal their trump card in Kaioken. They know that Cell can use their techniques, so they don't want to let Cell in on the fact that he might be able to use Kaioken. It's definitely an idea that Piccolo had. So they're gonna be they want to make sure that they only use it as a last resort. So Goku ends up facing off against Cell, ends up tiring him out, and here um, Vegeta actually steps up to the plate. He's going to be facing off against a decently exhausted Cell, and their battle is their battle is going to be similarly even to how it was between Goku and Cell in canon, and it's going to be Vegeta who ends up destroying the ring instead of Goku, since he's definitely taking on an exhausted Cell, but he's able to hold himself well enough that it's clear that Cell still holds the edge in terms of power. I always thought that Goku was like around 60 to 70% of Cell's power, whereas Gohan was around like 70 to 80. So Goku would be around that same 70 to 80%, whereas let's say that he manages to tire Cell out, so he's like resting on like a solid 90% of his full power, and Vegeta tires him out to like 85, and this is where Trunks steps in, and Cell is kind of starting to get annoyed, but he decides to humor him, and he makes a bit of a joke, like, why not just toss in both half Saiyan brats, make this properly worth my time, and they actually consider this, and Gohan decides to go on ahead and go through with it. So it's going to be Gohan and Trunks facing off against Cell, and they show a surprising amount of synergy. It's obvious this isn't the adult Gohan Trunks is used to. He himself is actually taller and older than instead of being the younger one. But they show a surprising amount of synergy, and they're starting to push Cell back. And he ends up firing that giant Kamehameha. And here, Trunks and Gohan turn towards each other, and they fire off their own full power Masenkos directly into the Kamehameha, and they're able to overwhelm him to where he's still torn up like he was in canon. And Cell is now properly exhausted, and Piccolo is readying himself to jump into the battle so that they can properly finish him off. Um, Vegeta and Goku have taken their senzu beans, and they're ready to jump in as well. And this is when Cell kind of, he kind of like holds up hold on, just give me a second, and he ends up spawning his Cell Juniors, which are equal to his own power, and he starts taking the battle more seriously. Um, Here, I'm just gonna say that Gohan is a solid match for Cell, since he's more fully realized his power, and the kind of power that he has, he's not gonna be holding back. So here he's able to match Cell in terms of power, and Trunks ends up having to step back and take on one of the Cell Juniors, and all of the Cell Juniors are about as powerful as Cell. And Piccolo, who's about as strong as Gohan, is actually able to kill his Cell Junior, and he moves in to help Goku and Vegeta with their Cell Juniors. Or maybe he moves on to help the humans first. He takes care of their Cell Juniors, and Cell, seeing this, kind of decides, ugh, it's definitely time that he definitely has to take this more seriously. He's gonna have to kill this brat so that he can go take care of Piccolo. It seems like he's grown decently stronger as well. And before he can zoom over to Piccolo to keep him from killing the rest of the Cell Juniors, he's stopped by Gohan, who briefly goes into Super Kaioken. He doesn't say it out loud, he doesn't call it out, but he does go into a Kaioken times 2 to get in front of Cell, and gut checks him. He hits him solidly in the stomach, and he coughs up a little bit, but it wasn't quite as overwhelming as he wasn't quite as caught off guard. Or no, he's definitely caught off guard because he's much more exhausted. He's probably only operating around like 70 to 80% of his full power, so that 2 times Kaioken is actually able to completely stun him, and it ends up getting him to cough up Android 18. And seeing this, he blasts Semi-Perfect Cell away with like a Ki. He gets him away. The Cell Juniors have been distracted, which Piccolo takes advantage of. He uses his own Kaioken, as does Goku, and they take out the rest of the Cell Juniors. And Trunks has finally managed to put his own down. He took the opportunity to completely chop its head off before exploding it into nothingness. they're all aware of Cell's regeneration, so they don't even hesitate. And Gohan, after knocking semi-perfect Cell away, as he's kind of contemplating like what the hell had just happened, Gohan rushes in with another kick. He doesn't even need to use Kaioken this time. He kicks him in the stomach and he gets him to throw up 17. And Krillin is quick to retrieve the both of them, and or Krillin steps in to retrieve 18, whereas 16, who survived, he didn't need to step in when after the Cell Juniors, and he didn't need to self-destruct, or he didn't even need to do it earlier. He didn't need to do it at all. He's kind of been spectating, and he jumps in to retrieve 17, whereas Krillin picks up 18, and Trunks ends up backing up Gohan. They're about to launch a full power Masenko and wipe him out, but he Cell had noticed what they did. He noticed that in his mind they cheated using the Kaioken, so he instantly goes to self-destruct himself. He ends up expanding, and they're kind of at a loss as to what to do. But Goku has an idea. He uses the instant transmission, and here he's actually able to survive the initial blast. And I'm not gonna have it where he teleports to King Kai's place. I'm gonna have it so that he just teleports to the moon. I know that doesn't make any sense. He should have to lock onto a power level, but or let's say that he's fast enough that he's able to teleport to King Kai's planet. He gathers up. He uses the Kaioken to gather up King Kai and Gregory and Bubbles, and he teleports them back to Earth. So he's able to avoid being killed. But Cell does end up returning in his super perfect Cell, and when they see he ends up firing the blast, and here it goes straight through Goku instead of going through Trunks. He's able to get out of the way, or Goku uses the Super Kaioken to push Trunks out of the way, and he shot through the heart, and he ends up. This is where he ends up dying instead of being exploded. Um, Gohan, seeing this, goes into a rage. He goes into Super Saiyan 2, as well as calling out Kaioken times 5. And seeing this, Cell is now about a decent enough match for Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, but not when he's enraged, and definitely not with Kaioken times 5. So he himself calls out Kaioken times 5, and they are going to be exchanging blows. Um, Piccolo ends up jumping in with his Kaioken times 15, and seeing how far he's able to push it, Cell reasons that he should be able to push it even farther with his greater regeneration, and he pushes himself to Kaioken times 30. And this ends up giving him the edge. He's more powerful than Piccolo, and he's even more powerful than Gohan, who ends up pushing himself to a times 10. They're going against one another. Piccolo's in a times 35, but it's clear Cell holds the edge, and they end up in that similar beam struggle. He wants to see them all squirm. So he pushes himself and he launches that full power Kamehameha. Gohan doesn't hold anything back, and Trunks, out of sheer desperation, pulls out everything that he can. He flies forward and launches a final flash to back up Gohan, and he flares into Super Saiyan 2 himself. Piccolo has a plan. He gets Vegeta to follow along with him, and they zoom around Cell, although Cell actually takes notice of them, and he attempts to send a blast. He's holding Trunks and Gohan at bay. He's pushing himself further and further with his Kaioken, and he's able to briefly keep it up. He's able to briefly keep up his Kamehameha with one hand, and he points a hand towards Vegeta and Piccolo, and he sends a full power. Let's say he launches a full power Masenko, or like a full power Big Bang attack towards them, and Vegeta is quick enough to push Piccolo out of the way, and he tells him to finish this as he's obliterated by the blast. This enrages Trunks further, and his own rage boost is enough to start giving them the edge, although Cell quickly uses his second hand and starts evening out the blast. It's clear that Cell is definitely pushing his limits with his regeneration, but his body is beginning to adapt to this level of Kaioken, and he jumps up to that. He's like, what did Piccolo call out? Kaioken times 35. And he's starting to take the edge once more. Gohan is wondering if he should risk a times 20 when Piccolo ends up sending down a full power Masenko directly through Cell's head. He didn't notice that Piccolo had survived the attack. He thought he wiped them both out. His cockiness came back to bite him. He shot directly through the head. It completely wipes it out. It breaks his concentration that the beam completely dissipates, and so does the Kaioken. And Trunks and Gohan are able to completely wipe out his damaged body from the Kaioken. His body was already tearing itself apart, and his regeneration was barely holding in, but he was too obsessed with the battle to pay attention, and here he's completely taken out. But sadly, we now have two casualties instead of just one. Both Goku and Vegeta are dead. Luckily, Vegeta here has actually managed to redeem himself. His final act of saving Piccolo and that year in the time chamber was definitely enough to help speed up his progression after being humbled by Cell. So here he's actually going to be allowed on probation. It's definitely going to be on probation, and his parole officer is going to be Goku in the afterlife. Vegeta's not going to be really allowed to do anything else than stick by Goku, and the two of them are going to be training in Otherworld. Uh, Trunks decides he's gonna head back to the future, and Gohan here is going to be keeping up his training so that nobody else ever has to die due to his weakness. He knows that this is a different circumstance. Cell was a different kind of monster than anything they'd ever faced, but he doesn't want to rely on that excuse. So going forward, sadly, both Trunks and Goten are fatherless, but Gohan knows that in the other timeline, he stepped up to be there for Trunks, and he's going to do the same for both Trunks and Goten. He's going to be taking over their training, and he's going to be a part of both of their lives. And to make things a little easier, he ends up talking Chi-Chi to, despite how much he initially protests, into moving into West City, and she explains it'd be better that they move to West City so that he can attend a proper education at Orange Star High School. So he's actually going to be going to high school from the very beginning, from first year. And he also says it'd be better for Goten. Um, he ends up making fast friends with Trunks. They bond very quickly, and he says it's just going to be easier. So they end up moving into Capsule Corp, the Sun family. Chi-Chi and Bulma make pretty good friends, now being single mothers and their husbands being dead, deciding to pursue training in the other world. And Gohan mainly keeps up his training with Piccolo, but he also trains Goten and Trunks. He teaches them how to fly, when they end up showing off Super Saiyan, and he actually pays attention to their development. So when he notices how easy it is for them to attain Super Saiyan, he teaches them to master it. Gohan has been mastering Super Saiyan 2, and when he takes note of how quickly they're able to grow in comparison to himself and future Trunks, he decides to teach them Super Saiyan 2 himself, him and Piccolo. They coach them in ki control, and they definitely want to stop out their, well, not so much stomp out, since they're not really training to to face off in life or death battles, but in case one ever comes their way, he wants them to be ready and to not let their childishness affect their ability to fight. So he's definitely training. When he trains them to reach Super Saiyan 2, he notices that unlike him, how he kind of initially became bloodthirsty before he ended up mastering it, they become just more childish, more cocky, and they allow themselves to get too overconfident. So he's quick to stomp this out when he's able to take them down in just normal Super Saiyan, although they do quickly catch up to his level, or at least around his level. He still clearly holds the advantage in terms of power and skill, but he does make note that their growth rate is absolutely insane. He doesn't teach them the Kaioken. He doesn't think they need to go through such intense training at such a young age to learn such a taxing technique on top of Super Saiyan, but he does teach them to master Super Saiyan 2 to the same level that he mastered Super Saiyan. And since he's actually actively training with Piccolo, Piccolo is actually going to be much more relevant going into the future. And beyond that, he tells them he asks him if he has any ideas on furthering his power as a Super Saiyan, and he says that he does kind of have an idea, but he thinks they'd need to go into the time chamber to do it. It's kind of based around the Kaioken. He wants to see if there's any more that he can bring out just from Super Saiyan alone, or if Super Saiyan 2 is just if he wants to know if Super Saiyan 2 is the end. So maybe one day during like some summer vacation, and he's definitely made friends with Videl, and he's also been doing some stuff in West City and Orange City, which ends up becoming Satan City. So he kind of ends up becoming he becomes friends with Videl, and same with Arasa and Sharpener, and here they're actually proper friends instead of him being blackmailed and then they get into a relationship. They end up as proper friends, and she does end up discovering about his abilities, as do Arasa and Sharpener, and they learn about the truth behind the battle against Cell over the course of the next couple of years, and what he's really capable of. And we'll say that mainly Videl does end up learning some key control, and she's doing her own training, some training under Gohan. But we'll say like maybe about like 3 years, so like after his first year of high school, um, 3 years before the Buu Saga, Gohan enters the time chamber for the second time, and if you want to say like, oh, Piccolo wouldn't be able to go in, we can easily say that when we can easily say that Gohan either asked Dende to enhance it or asked if they could use the Dragon Balls to enhance it. So we end up getting that same time chamber. You can go in more than twice, and you can bring in more than just two people. So they go into the time chamber, and Piccolo has managed to develop his own Super Kaioken, where he bumps it up in terms of levels of 50. So he's at around a level 3 Super Kaioken. It's what he's mainly been training in. He's been training his body to withstand higher levels of it. So he's at around a level 3, so it gives him a 150 times increase in terms of power. And Gohan has managed to master times 10 and even times 20 Kaioken in Super Saiyan 2. But he still wants to see what else Super Saiyan can be pushed towards. So he ends up training with Piccolo, and he ends up discovering Super Saiyan 3. But he's definitely finding it difficult to master. It's much more easier for him to address the problems with it, and since he's been practicing so well in terms of key controlling using such high levels of Kaioken, even on Super Saiyan 2, he's definitely able to manage it much more better. But he feels like there's some kind of wall. He's not really sure what that wall is, but he can definitely tell that there's something blocking him. And he ends up mulling it over with Piccolo, and Piccolo ends up asking him, well, do you think it may have anything to do with the fact that you're technically missing a limb? And this kind of gets him to question him. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, your tail. And he's like, oh, right, my tail. I forgot that was even a thing. And Piccolo even asks him, he noticed that Goten and Trunks never really had tails. Were they born without them? And he just says, no. His mom and Bulma just decided to have them removed at birth. He's like, well, do you think it's possible for them to be regrown? And he's like, I could probably ask Bulma about it. I wouldn't be surprised if she knows something. She lived with Vegeta for so long. And even if not, we can just ask the dragon. We can just use the Dragon Balls to wish him back. He's like, why do you think it would have any kind of impact? He's like, well, you're missing a vital component of your Saiyan power. You literally are missing out on a whole limb. It could affect your ki circulation, the way it flows through your body. Maybe that's what's holding you back from mastering Super Saiyan 3 for this new level of Super Saiyan, this Super Saiyan 3 of yours. And he's like, it could be. You think I should let Goten and Trunks in on it? He's like, it'd at least be, if they meet it in the future, it'd at least be good to introduce them to the topic of the tails. So he ends up talking to Bulma and Chi-Chi about it, and they're a little reluctant, but he tells them that he can just take them out to train the power. It wouldn't be that hard. Even in his own base, he'd be able to take them on using basic Kaioken. And if he faced them off in Super Saiyan, he'd definitely be able to rein them in and keep them from rampaging. And Piccolo would be able to do the same. Piccolo is about, when he goes into in base alone, he's about the same level as he'd be at about the same level as he's definitely stronger than Gohan's base, and we'll say that with his own Kaioken times, we'll actually say that he's technically stronger than Gohan when he goes into level 3. He's about equal in terms of base, maybe he's a little weaker. So when he goes into Super Kaioken level 3 and Gohan is in Super Saiyan 2 with times 20, they're at around similar levels of power. So they end up deciding to regrow their tails, and they first have to train so that it's not a weakness for when it's grabbed on, and that's going to be like their initial basic training. And eventually Gohan ends up training Goten and Trunks, And this is where Bulma ends up coming in. She ends up developing. She's studying their tails as they grow them back, and as they're initially getting used to the weakness of them and using them in combat. And we're gonna say that I'm gonna have like a little phenomenon happen here where if a Saiyan has their tail and they've reached a certain level of power, their tails change color. So they're normally brown, and that's like the same thing for all Saiyans. They all have the same brown, but here they end up for Gohan and Goten they end up changing to be black to match their main hair, and for Trunks his ends up turning purple. Just a little neat thing to throw in there. Um, it's actually a little bit of a reference to Dragon Ball Legends, how Shallot has a black tail instead of a brown tail. And I always thought like that would just be a cool little thing to just throw in. So Gohan and Goten's tails end up turning black, and Trunks turns purple. But they do notice this, but they kind of brush it off. Maybe it's because they're half Saiyans. Maybe it's because of how strong they are. They reach levels no other Saiyan has ever reached. They don't really know. They don't really care. They notice that it's not anything bad. And Bulma ends up developing the Bloodwave machine to help them. Maybe it's more of a handheld device to help Gohan and Goten and Trunks all train the form. Piccolo is the one to train Gohan in it, and Gohan ends up training Goten and Trunks. And they get the base Super Saiyan, the base Uzaru state down, and that's where they kind of end the training. Gohan has some ideas, but he wants to get down Super Saiyan 3 before he moves on to anything else. This already took up a lot of time, so he ends up going into the time chamber with Piccolo once more, and he ends up learning how to properly maximize the efficiency of Super Saiyan 3. And Goku and Vegeta, their training has been going quite well as well. It's been going absolutely amazing. Vegeta ends up developing much more since he's constantly able to fight against Goku, and despite how reluctant he initially is, he ends up learning Kaioken from Goku. He's not going to learn the Spirit Bomb. He's not really pure of heart, but he is a better person, and they do give him a bit more freedom in the afterlife. And he ends up learning how to use the Kaioken so he can use Super Kaioken, and the both of them end up discovering Super Saiyan 3 on their own. Maybe they end up discovering it a little bit earlier, and since they both have experience with Super Kaioken, similarly to how Gohan does, they end up learning how to maximize the efficiency of Super Saiyan 3. Maybe they don't quite master it the same way Gohan has, but it's not quite so draining anymore. So it's definitely going to be a much more viable option for them in the future. And they wonder to themselves, since they haven't really been checking in too much, they don't want to spoil the surprise. But they do wonder if Gohan has reached this level of power, or if he's surpassed them in other ways. The Otherworld tournament, I know that was kind of like a non-canon thing, but here they don't even need Super Kaioken. They end up, Goku ends up facing off against Pikkon, and or we can even say that Vegeta faces off against him, since I'm pretty sure Goku and Pikkon ended up meeting up in the finals. So Vegeta ends up facing off against Pikkon and wins. Doesn't even need Super Kaioken, just basic Super Saiyan is enough. And then Goku and Vegeta face off against the finals, and they go into Super Kaioken 3, or Super Saiyan 3 Kaioken times 10, and they have a climactic spar that is able to completely shake the entirety of Otherworld. Um, they end up satisfied, and they wonder how well their sons have been doing. And they end up looking into the living world. They see how well they've been doing, and that Gohan has managed to get so much stronger. And they decide that they wanna visit. So Goku and Vegeta end up getting into contact with everyone on Earth. They tell them how they want to meet up at the next World Martial Arts tournament. So this gets them all pumped. And Gohan definitely doesn't have to be blackmailed into going into it. He's in a more solid relationship with Videl. They're properly boyfriend and girlfriend with one another. They've been going on a few dates for the past couple of months throughout their last year of high school. And my dog is here. And they end up going to the tournament. And Shin and Gambito still arrive the same with Babidi and his little minions. And here Piccolo doesn't actually completely fold against Shin. He definitely treats him with respect, but he asks him if he would do him the honor of giving him a spar. And they actually have a decent spar against one another, and it's obviously clear it's going to go in favor of Piccolo. Kibito might make a bit of a fuss in the stands, but he's not going to interrupt, and their own. They have a solid battle, which Piccolo does win, but he treats Shin with great respect, and Shin, if anything, is just impressed and happy that they're going to be able to help. But he also is a little worried. That showing of power definitely gave some power to Babidi and Boo. But that is what they're hoping for at least for now. And then we get to the dreaded fight of and the junior division, to cover that real quick. Um, Goten and Trunks are not going to be infiltrating the adult division, even if they do kind of want to face off against Piccolo and their dads. And here they had a much more nice reunion. Vegeta actually ended up making that comment in private that he never really held Trunks even as a baby. He holds him for the first time, and he actually publicly embraces his son. He definitely had he ended up working on his relationship in the time chamber with future Trunks, and he doesn't exactly regret not um he doesn't exactly regret training with Goku in the other world. He does regret that he didn't get time to spend with his son. That's another time that his son has missed out on a childhood with his father. So he actually Goku and Vegeta make a solid effort to really connect with him. They share some stories before they go into their battles, and they actually step aside. They step away from the main tournament to actually, whenever they get the chance, to watch in on Trunks and Goten and their junior division tournament. As expected, they're both very powerful, but they're also quite respectful and quite restrained until they end up facing off against one another in the finals, and they end up going all out. They don't hold back. They're sparring completely in base. They keep it to basic martial arts, and then they start flying around. They burst into Super Saiyan, and they finish it off in the final clash in Super Saiyan 2. Apparently, Gohan had attempted to teach Trunks how to use the Gallic gun, and he actually managed to recreate it on his own, although he called it the Gallic Cannon, which actually completely impressed and surprised Vegeta. So they end up ending it in a beam struggle in the air in Super Saiyan 2, and Goten actually ends up using it as a feint, and he gets behind Trunks and kicks him in the back of the head. He breaks off the beam struggle and kicks him in the back of the head, and he sends Trunks flying into the ground. And just before he ends up making contact, he ends up fading away using an after image, and he does the same to Goten, except he hits him much more harder, and he hits him straight on in the back, and he ends up crashing face first into the ground outside of the ring. So Trunks does still take the win, but it's much more hard fought. And Vegeta is definitely proud of his boy, and he makes it very clear he's very loud in his cheering for him. It actually kind of embarrasses him for a second, and Bulma's giggling at him, and he ends up looking away with like a little bit of a blush. Goku is definitely teasing him, but the two of them step in, and they show some support towards their sons. Everyone is kind of wondering why the hell these guys have halos over their heads, but it's whatever. I'm sorry, my sister's cat almost fell. He was kind of dangling for a second, but he's good. But yeah, they don't infiltrate as Mighty Mask, and 18 takes the real Mighty Mask out, no diff. But we get to the dreaded fight of Videl versus Yamu, and she's actually able to take the win. She's been training for longer, so she's much more powerful, and she's able to knock him out of the ring using a Ki. He's about to step up, and he's pissed. He's about to step up and brutalize Videl, despite the fact he's been disqualified. But not only does the other one stop him from doing so, the skinny one, Gohan ends up appearing. He appears right before him, directly in front of Videl, who's definitely injured, but not as badly as she was, even like during the midpoint of their battle. So she's just like a little winded, a few bruises, and she's like, I could take care of myself, you know. They have like a little bit of a moment where Gohan stares off against the two minions of Babidi, and they end up retreating. And she comments that, I could take care of myself, and he's like, yeah, I know. I was just worried, and I wanted to get that message across. They really needed to back off. And she kind of like giggles at him. She's like, you're definitely overprotective, but I like that about you. and they end up walking back towards the stands. Gohan has a silly little grin on his face, and Chi Chi is very proud of her future daughter-in-law, who she is much more supportive of, and definitely likes a lot more, even more so than in canon. Um, and when it comes time for Gohan to show off against Kibito, um, here Piccolo ended up telling them about the status of Shin and Kibito, and they were all let in on the plan. Gohan, when they came back to the stands, he kind of asked, what was even with that guy? Like, what do they know about him?" And this is where the Kais make their appearance, and they tell him their plan. They explain that they're people that they've been following, and they kind of ask, "Who the hell are these two?" And Piccolo is quick to clarify that these two are Supreme Kais, and that they're even higher above than the Grand Supreme Kai, or the Grand. I think he's like the Supreme Kai or the Grand Kai. Sorry, the Grand Kai, who is a step above King Kai and those other Kais of the four quadrants. And this kind of shocks Goku. He's like, "Whoa, I didn't think there was anyone above the Grand Kai." And he's like, "Yes, I'm the Supreme Kai." And he's like, "They're people we've been following. We've been hoping to get a proper lead, and we decided to take this opportunity to track them down when this is all over, and get a read on their plan." And this is when Gohan has his battle against Kibito, and here Kibito asks him to power up as far as he can, and Gohan chuckles to himself and he's like, "I'm sorry, I really don't mean to insult your station, but I genuinely don't believe you can handle my full power. But oh, hear me, you. This is the power of a Super Saiyan," and he powers up, and this is where they end up stepping in. They psychically hold him down, and Gohan is about to completely break free. He's about to completely shrug it off by ascending into Super Saiyan 2. But Piccolo is quick to speak into his mind. He tells him, "It seems like the Kais have some sort of plan. Play along with it for now. I'm sure you'll be fine." And then Gohan ends up getting stabbed. And he's about to break out, but he wants to see where this goes. He's a little interested himself. And Piccolo is actually about to step in, but Gohan tells him, "No, it's fine. He has plenty of energy to spare. What they're doing won't be too detrimental to him." And here, he's multiple times stronger. So his power, I'm pretty sure he ended up giving like 50%, like 40 to 50% in Super Saiyan 2. Here, being multiple times stronger, in just Super Saiyan, what they were able to drain from them, they end up getting the full power they end up needing for Buu. If not, around 80%. They end up getting to 70 to 80% of the power they need for Buu. He's quick to recover. It didn't really affect him too much. Maybe he takes a sensu, and they sorry, Jesus. Maybe he's healed by Kibito, and he like makes a little comment like, "That wasn't the full limit of my power, by the way." And they all take off. It's the same group as in canon. But here Gohan actually orders Goten and Trunks to, for now at least, to stay behind and to keep an eye on their mothers, on Bulma and Chi-Chi. Um, Goku and Vegeta actually have like a little parting moment with their sons. They tell them the same, just to look after their mothers, to be strong and to be brave and to be smart, to not lose themselves, and to yeah. They give them some solid words of encouragement, and they even have a moment with their wives where they're like, "Sorry, we have to, step away so quickly." But they're understanding. They understand that this is just the way life happens to them. This is the way that life goes down for them, and they tell them to make their way back safely. And they all depart. It's Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, and the two Kais. Gohan also asked Videl to stay behind to help rein in the boys. She's definitely she's kind of like an older sister figure to the two of them. He's like, "If you can help rein in the boys and help my mothers manage them." And she's like, "Don't worry. I know from all of your stories this is the kind of lives that you lead. Go on ahead. Go take care of things. We'll be here when you get back." And they all head off. And when they enter the ship, it's gonna be similarly to in canon, except that oh yeah, and Krillin came along. I forgot that Krillin came along. Um, they're not gonna get wiped out by Deborah. Piccolo is quick to just take off his cape and turban. He tosses the turban in front of Krillin so he doesn't get stoned, and he uses the cape to protect himself. And he's able to prevent Kibito. Maybe Gohan is able to prevent Kibito from being killed. he grabs Deborah by the hand and completely knocks him back using Ki. He's prepared to go into Super Saiyan just to finish this guy right now, but apparently Deborah knows his limits and he quickly retreats. So they go into the ship. It's that same that little fight. They have their same fights, Goku and Vegeta, and it's mainly when we get to Deborah that it's different. Gohan doesn't want to waste any time. He bursts into Super Saiyan 2 and shoves his hand directly. He clamps his hand directly over Deborah's throat. He's holding him more by the chin, that big old massive chin of his, and he's keeping him from opening his mouth to release his spit. And then he releases a full power Masenko straight through his chest. But luckily, the power that Goku showed off when he was facing off against Yakon, and that very powerful blast that Gohan ended up releasing through Deborah was enough to give them just that little bit more of energy that they needed to reawaken Buu. The power that they took from Gohan in the first place, and the power of him transforming into Super Saiyan 2 and letting out that blast was enough. And even if it wasn't, we can say that he ends up trying to go into Vegeta and Piccolo's mind. You can say like that little bit of Piccolo, it's not gonna work, but he does use it as a distraction. And what he does is that he actually ends up impaling Kibito and draining him. He ends up impaling Kibito and drains him of his power. Gohan is about to blast him, but he quickly teleports away. And he's using his magic to briefly distract them to keep them off from trying to kill him. As he then he does the same thing to Gohan and Goku, as Vegeta and Piccolo are recovering, and he ends up stabbing Shin, and he starts draining his energy. And once again, this time it's Piccolo and Vegeta who try to stop him, but he ends up teleporting away once more. He's gathered just the energy that he needs, and he begins to awaken Buu. They all leave. They all manage to get out of the ship as Buu begins to awaken, and he ends up coming out from his egg. And everyone here is actually like it's more so that the Z fighters are mentally exhausted. Shin and Kibito are definitely physically exhausted, and they also want to retreat since Buu is now officially awake. But they all stand their ground. They say that they can definitely handle things. The Saiyans go into their Super Saiyan 2 states. Piccolo powers up into Super Kaioken level 1, and they prepare to face off against the Fat Majin. They begin the battle, they charge in against him, they begin testing his capabilities, and they start bouncing him around, and he starts taking the battle more seriously himself. They start to use their Kaiokens, which kind of surprises Gohan and Piccolo that Vegeta can use the Kaioken. But the Saiyans go into Kaioken, mainly Goku and Vegeta, they go into Kaioken level 20, or level 10, times 10, blah. They go into Kaioken times 10. Piccolo ups it to Super Kaioken level 3, which is not his limit, not anymore. After all of these, after the full 7 years, he's able to push it to a level 5 if he needs to. But for now, he's gonna settle for level 3, and Gohan ends up pushing himself to just basic Kaioken times 5. And this is enough to actually turn the tide of the battle. They begin beating Buu around, and everyone can sense the power being thrown around, and they definitely want to retreat, or they definitely want to come in and check on what's going on. But they can sense that the real major power levels are in their fronts. They definitely sense that very evil, very malicious, very dangerous ki. But for now, it seems like their people have got it well handled and well under control. Gohan is leading the charge, and he ends up releasing a blast which destroys a chunk of Buu, but he ends up regenerating, and he's like, oh great, another one. So he's quick to prepare another combo so that he can release a full power blast into the air and avoid damaging the earth. But Buu ends up separating himself into like those mini Buus of him. He separates into like a few clones of himself and starts fighting them all one-on-one. And they all notice that his power level hasn't dropped. All the clones are of the same level, and this is once again giving them the Cell games flashbacks. But they're able to hold their own, and they each destroy the pieces of Buu, or at least they think they do. He ends up reforming once more, and little pieces of him are left lying around. The first one he ends up absorbing is he ends up absorbing Piccolo, and this ends up giving him a massive amount of power. And or no, I'm actually gonna have him turn into Super Boo first. Um, he ends up getting pissed that he's been tossed around so much and that he's being hurt so much. He ends up getting pissed and he splits into the two Boos, Good Boo and Evil Boo, and they're all kind of like wondering what the hell is going on. And they briefly just relax. They relax their power levels, although they are staying on guard. And little pieces of Boo have been starting to gather around the battlefield, but they don't really notice it. Kibito and Shin do, and they try to tell him, but this is when Skinny Boo ends up absorbing Fat Boo and becomes Super Boo. And they don't really notice a difference in his power level, but they do notice a shift in his ki. It's much more darker, much more malevolent than even before. And Babidi has already been killed. Um, Shin and Kibito ended up taking care of him, while the main fighters were facing off against Boo. And yeah, he's in Super Boo, and he uses the pieces. He uses his pieces to absorb Piccolo. They end up jumping Piccolo first, and they try to tear it off from him. Gohan is quick to try to tear it off him, but Boo ends up appearing before him, and he assimilates Piccolo directly in front of him, and he turns into Piccolo. And this gives him a solid enough power level, a boost in power level, that he's able to keep up with Super Saiyan 2, with all of the Saiyans in their Super Saiyan 2 state. Goku and Vegeta had decided to, despite the fact that it's definitely going to shorten their time, they end up powering up to Super Saiyan 3, and Gohan, seeing that they're able to do it, ends up doing the same. He knows that they need to take this seriously, and if they need to, they can resurrect Piccolo using the Dragon Balls. He knows this is the kind of decision that Piccolo would approve of. So, the three Saiyans are now in Super Saiyan 3, and Boo is worried, but he ends up charging into Super Kaioken times 5. And this is enough to even out the playing field. His 250 times increase in power is enough to keep him in the same ballpark. So he faces off against them. It's clear that Gohan still holds the edge in power. He's about equal with Goku and Vegeta, but Gohan is the one who holds the edge in power. Goku and Vegeta are also making use of Kaioken on top of this. They're bursting into times 5, and Gohan himself has actually been more dedicated to mastering the state than trying to stack Kaioken on top of it. Goku and Vegeta are able to do it since they don't really have to worry too much about the damage it does to their bodies, since this is their otherworld bodies. But especially with the ki leakage, it's not too much of an issue for them. But it is going to be one for Gohan. So he's only keeping it around times 2, but this is still enough to match Goku and Vegeta, and they're able to overwhelm Boo. But and here they're watching out for being absorbed, but they don't. They kind of end up forgetting that Shin and Kibito are still on the battlefield, as is Krillin. Krillin has also kind of he's been sticking with the guys to kind of protect them and back them up, and the three of them end up getting absorbed. Maybe Shin is able to Kai out of the way, but Kibito and Krillin are absorbed, and it's not so much the power that they end up providing him, but the techniques. So he's still holding up his Kaioken times Super Kaioken level 5, and he started to make use of some of Kibito and Krillin's abilities. He's using the Kienzan to split the three of them up so that they're not fighting in unison, and he ends up using Kibito's own ability, his limited ability to use the Kai. Maybe he can't use it to the same range, but he is able to use it to move around the battlefield, and he ends up absorbing Vegeta, and he ends up trying to absorb Vegeta. He's able to set up a ki barrier around himself and uses like a ki explosion to remove the pieces of Boo from around him, but he does notice that his and Goku's time are running out, so he asks Gohan if he's able to finish him off, because they need to finish this right now as quickly as they can. And he says that he might be able to if he can push his Kaioken one level further, but he's going to have to take the time to make sure that his ki is properly controlled. So he asks Goku and Vegeta if they can take care of the battle for a few minutes so that he can level out his ki. And they agree. They both go into Kaioken times 10. They know this is going to shorten their time even more drastically, but with all this happening, they kind of decide maybe it's about time that they stick around Earth properly this time. So they burst forward, and they begin holding off Boo. They even jump into 15 and times 20 Kaioken occasionally to really overwhelm Boo whenever it seems like he might make the edge. And Boo himself is also trying to increase his Kaioken levels. He's trying to push it to a Super Kaioken times 6. And when he eventually does get the hang of it, it's clear he's starting to take back the advantage. Only for Gohan in Super Kaioken times or in Kaioken times 10 to completely butts through him. He bisects him, and then he ends up rushing back in, throws both pieces of him into the air, and he ends up launching that same, what is it, the burning attack that Trunks used, where he fires the ki blast into the air and completely annihilates Boo. And he even pushes himself to Kaioken times 20 for a brief second before his body gives out. And just to make sure, Goku and Vegeta also added their own attacks, the Super Kamehameha and the Final Flash. Now that the battle is settled, Shin is definitely a little upset, but they end up informing him about the Dragon Balls. They're going to be able to resurrect everyone who was killed over the course of these past few days on Earth. And they use the Dragon Balls. They resurrect everyone after the tournament. They go back to the tournament. Goku and Vegeta have just enough time to make it through the rest of the tournament. Uh, they end up sparring against each other in the quarterfinals before Goku pulls out the win, and he ends up facing off since he has more experience in actually fighting in a tournament. So he's able to make use of that experience and the rules and the limitations to win the battle. And then he and Gohan face off against each other in the finals. Gohan ends up taking the win. Goku couldn't be prouder, and he lets them know that this isn't the last time they'll see each other. And Vegeta kind of makes the same comment to his family, and they're all kind of confused. And it's all clarified when they make the wish on the Dragon Balls. Dende ends up adding a wish to resurrect Goku and Vegeta. Maybe he's powered up. Maybe he has to wish them together or individually. Maybe Shenron decides to make this brief exception, and he's like, "It's definitely going to tire out you're definitely not going to have access to all your wishes next time." Or maybe this is where they get to 3 wishes. I'm pretty sure Shenron eventually was able to grant 3 wishes. But either way, Goku and Vegeta are brought back as well as everyone else who was killed. Um, and this is actually where they comment for the first time. Maybe they commented on it earlier, but they properly ask Gohan, why do him and Goten and Trunks have their tails? And he explains how it helped them master Super Saiyan 3. But either way, they're glad. They're glad to be back, and we are going to jump into the 4-year time skip. Boo is completely dead, so we're not gonna have Majin Buu sticking around, and we're not gonna have Oob either. So that's definitely going to be unfortunate. But luckily, he is still going to go through some level of reincarnation, specifically the souls he had trapped within him. So maybe we'll see Oob in some capacity. Maybe not. Either way, we are going to jump into the 4-year time skip to Dragon Ball Super. And I guess I can briefly cover what's going to happen. Not too much different. Not too much is going to be different except for their power levels and like what they're going to be achieving. Goku and Vegeta end up growing their tails back. Goku has to learn how to use Great Ape, and they end up mastering Super Saiyan 3 with Gohan. Goten and Trunks are going to learn. They begin their own training to learn Super Saiyan 3. They think it's cool despite how initially silly it looks without the eyebrows. They think that it's so cool how powerful they are, and they want to test it out for themselves. So they're going to be learning Super Saiyan 3. And Gohan actually brings up the brief idea that he had. When he was learning how to use Uzaru for the first time, he briefly wondered what would happen if they tried merging the powers of Super Saiyan and Great Ape with one another. It's clear that there's still more potential for the tail and for the Great Ape power, considering it was the key to mastering Super Saiyan 3. He thinks that it might be a key to evolving into a newer power. So they decide first they want Goku and Vegeta to unlock whatever this power may be, so that Gohan can not only help rein them in, but so that the two of them can help rein him in if he loses control, since they know this is going to be involving training Uzaru. So they end up moving into the time chamber with Piccolo, and they take about 3 days to end up learning how to use this. Like Goku and Vegeta are able to get their transformations into Golden Grade Ape done, and we're gonna have some Super Saiyan 4s, baby. They end up learning how to go Golden Grade Ape over the course of like the first day, and they end up adjusting to the power of Super Saiyan 4. And Gohan is able to keep up with the Kaioken times 10 on top of his Super Saiyan 3, and he's even stronger than them anyways, just base to base and transformation to transformation. He's stronger, so he's able to keep up with their Super Saiyan 4s, but he does note that it's very impressive in terms of power. And they're able to rein him in when he goes into Golden Grade Ape. Maybe even Piccolo ends up having to go into his giant state and in his own Super Kaioken, which he's pushed to an even further level, Super Kaioken times 10, Super Kaioken level 10, which is a total of a 500 times, yeah, 500 times multiplier. So it actually ends up evening out. They're about similar base to base. So this actually ends up evening out with Golden Grade Ape. But when Gohan ends up transforming into a Super Saiyan 4, Piccolo ends up commenting that he's going to have to find some other level of power to keep up with all of these crazy Saiyans and their crazy powers and transformations. And Gohan, now a Super Saiyan 4, sheepishly apologizes, but he tells him not to. He's proud that his protege has reached such high levels. And so Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan all have access to Super Saiyan 4. They kind of keep it close to their chest. They don't really want to reveal it, especially to the kids who are already learning how to utilize Super Saiyan 3. That's what they're going to be training for. They don't want them to jump ahead into this transformation that requires such intense self-control. They want them to learn to take it step by step. They don't want them to get too big for their britches. So Gohan and Videl do end up getting married. And Piccolo, wanting to follow up on getting his own form and getting his own power, he decides to take up the offer that the Kais gave them after the Buu saga. They ended up making the offer to allow them to train, but they were fine training on Earth. But Piccolo decides to take him up on it, so he's going to go to the realm of the Kais to train under them to learn their abilities, and he ends up breaking the Z sword. They do give that. They do end up having that test with the Kachin, with the Kachi Kachin, whatever it's called. He breaks the Z sword. Elder Kai comes out, and he unlocks his potential. And he's also learning more about the realm of the gods. He's kind of becoming a bit of an apprentice Kai, similarly to how Trunks was able to learn healing. Piccolo's going to learn how to heal, and the Kai Kai from. He's also going to learn the Kai Kai from them. And so Piccolo's kind of sort of an apprentice Kai. He's learning healing, the Kai Kai. He's reached that potential unlock form he got in Superhero, where his skin turns yellow. And he's learning more and more about the realm of the gods. Um, Vegeta and Goku are spending some quality time with their two sons in Goten and Trunks, and they're going to be learning how to use Super Saiyan 3. And Gohan is deciding to, for like his research, is going to be based around Ki. In Dragon Ball Online, he apparently, the reason like everyone is able to use Ki in that game, in that universe, is that Gohan wrote a research paper explaining about Ki, and he published it, and everyone ended up learning about Ki and martial arts. So that's what his scholarly pursuits are going to be based around. He's writing a manuscript. He's writing research papers and a thesis all about based around Ki and energy and martial arts and spirituality and how it relates to biology and stuff. That's what he's going to be studying and putting forth in his research paper. And we jump the 4 years and we get to the events of Battle of Gods. I'm gonna go on ahead and cover it since it's pretty brief. Beerus does still wake up, and here instead of when he ends up learning about like the Super Saiyans, um, and here he learns about the Super Saiyan gods. Everyone is already at the party. Goku isn't going to be training at King Kai since he has so many training partners here on Earth that are powerful enough to keep up with him. He's not ahead of everyone. So here he's actually going to be at the party enjoying it with his family. And I also want to add this. Goku and Vegeta's outfits are going to be different. They're going to have the End of Z outfits. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, they're End of Z, Goku and Vegeta. Yeah. If you search up like what they look like, Goku has like a similar outfit to in GT, except that the shirt is going to be like a light teal. The pants are going to be like a deeper green. He has like a white belt, and his boots are black, and like the wrappings he has around his wrists and around his boots are going to be like a bright orange. If you just search up End of Z Goku and End of Z Vegeta, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. And for Vegeta, I'm not talking about that jacket that he's wearing. I'm talking about the outfit he wears. The the loose combat pants, the loose sweatpants, the blue and green shoes that kind of look like Trunks's. His basic gloves and like that black tank top that he ends up wearing, that black brown tank top. That's gonna be their outfits for Super going forward. So this is what they're wearing at the party, and Gohan himself is relaxed in like a pair of his own gi. He didn't become the Great Saiyaman, by the way. He just stuck to being the Golden Warrior. That's what he stuck with as his vigilante identity. He stuck to being the Golden Warrior, and Beerus instead, he initially decides to head straight for he heads straight towards planet Earth. Heads straight for Bulma's party, and Piccolo, who has been learning about godly ki from the Kais and has been learning their magics and their abilities, he actually senses this and he's like, "What is that? That's such a powerful godly ki." And the Kais end up telling him, "Yeah, they're pretty sure that's Beerus the Destroyer heading straight for Earth." So he's quick to teleport down, and he tells them about the situation. He tells Gohan, Goku, and Vegeta, and Vegeta is terrified. He also knows of Beerus, and this kind of cements it to Goku and Gohan how serious this is. This could be a potential threat, so it's best that they accommodate to Beerus's every needs. And then he appears right behind them. He's like, "That's a good idea. You should definitely follow up on that. You should listen to this. What are you, a Namekian?" "Yeah." "And little Prince Vegeta." "How interesting." And here, Beerus is actually going to be kept in a good mood throughout the whole experience, since Boo isn't here to eat all that pudding. He's in a good mood, but he does end up questioning them about the Super Saiyan God. He asks if any of them know about it, and they don't. They claim that they only know about Super Saiyan, basic Super Saiyans, and a recent transformation that they attained. And he's interested. He's like, "What transformation would that be?" And this kind of piques everyone's interest. They're kind of all in the dark, except for Piccolo. So they decide to float up into the sky above the boat, and Goku. Here it's Gohan who's going to demonstrate, since he's the strongest, which Beerus himself takes note of. He's like, "I want to see what the half breed has. He's definitely the strongest out of all of you." So he burst into Super Saiyan 1. He's like, "This is a normal Super Saiyan," and this is where we're going to get that speech. "This is a Super Saiyan 2, and this is a Super Saiyan 3." And Beerus is like, "That's definitely impressive, but I hope that's not all you have to show me." And he's like, "Oh no, Lord Beerus, I promise. We have much more in store. We have much more in store for you." And then he powers up into Super Saiyan 4. He says, "We initially wanted to call this Super Saiyan 4, but it's a bit different than just any normal Super Saiyan. So we settled on Primal Super Saiyan. This is the power that we have. This is my full power, and this is the recent transformation we attained." And everyone's kind of in awe that he's so powerful, and that Goku and Vegeta apparently have it as well. So he asks them to come at him with all that they got. So Goku and Vegeta end up bursting into Super Saiyan 4, and with permission from Beerus, Piccolo asks if he can join the battle, and he ends up going into his ultimate state, the yellow skin state. And it's clear that this actually puts him on a similar level as Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta. So they end up beginning their battle, and here Beerus actually, maybe he's not letting out the same amount of power, but he's definitely letting out more than he would have against like that brief moment where Vegeta went into Super Saiyan 2 and surpassed Goku. He's definitely letting out more power than even that. Definitely a few times more power than he would have expected for these mortals, and he can tell that Piccolo has something resembling God Ki. So he's actually kind of intrigued that this Namekian is able to reach such high levels. But he is able to defeat them. Maybe he has to land a couple more hits, especially when they each pull out the Kaioken. And Piccolo reveals that he's actually able to completely surpass them, since his Kaioken level is now higher than theirs. The ultimate form is basically like his base, and he's able to pull out his super Kaioken level 10, and he's able to completely surpass everyone. But he is still knocked down. All the Saiyans are, and when he's like this is definitely good, definitely very good. You all have amazing potential, but I still haven't seen a Super Saiyan God. He wonders if he should destroy this planet. He ponders briefly to himself. He's like, good food, decent warriors, but no Super Saiyan God. I wonder if I should destroy this planet. And they offer to use the Dragon Balls. So they end up making the wish, and they discover, all they have to do is do the ritual. And here they decide to do the ritual on Gohan since he's still the strongest Saiyan. And Videl does reveal that she's pregnant, or we could say that they initially do it without Videl, and he actually enters into full power Super Saiyan 4. That form that they had, where they did that similar ritual, except they only had like 5 Saiyans in total. They did it in GT so that they could power up Goku in Super Saiyan 4 to fight against Baby. But yeah, they end up inadvertently doing that, and they're like, huh, doesn't feel like godly power. And he's like, no, you did it wrong. I really should destroy this planet. And then Videl steps forward, reveals that she's pregnant, and Gohan ends up getting the proper ritual done on him. And he does end up, he's still in normal Super Saiyan God. And he fights against Beerus. Goku and Vegeta are still a little worried, so they end up doing the full power Super Saiyan 4 ritual instead, since they're still lacking another Saiyan. But they do it just in case that they need to step up, and they each achieve that Ultra Super Saiyan 4, Full Power Super Saiyan 4, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna just call it Full Power Super Saiyan 4. I know I called it Primal Super Saiyan, but whatever. I'm sticking to Super Saiyan 4. But they end up using unlocking Ultra Full Power Super Saiyan 4, and they actually prepare to use the Fusion Dance in case Gohan's power isn't enough. And when they sense that Gohan's power, which they can't get a proper sense on, Piccolo himself, he senses that Gohan is about to lose. They end up fusing into Gogeta, and they all notice that Gogeta's hair is red, like his fur is red, which makes sense, but his hair is red, almost like Gohan's. But he doesn't even take the time to process this. He teleports into the battle, and Gohan is in a similar state where he held that big, that blast, that sphere of destruction that Beerus used. I know it's not actually a power of destruction move, but he used that big fireball, and Gohan ended up bursting into full power Super Saiyan 4, but he still ended up passing out. And Gogeta teleports in using instant transmission, and Piccolo himself Kaikai's, and he starts healing Gohan, restoring his energy, as Gogeta faces off against Beerus. And he's like, I wonder if you're a Super Saiyan God. He asks them like, what the hell did they do? And they said that he briefly explains they did that same partial ritual on Goku and Vegeta before they fused into one being. And Beerus actually kind of wonders if this fusion ended up giving this fused being, since they each took in the power of 4 other Saiyans instead of 5 other Saiyans before fusing, if this allowed this fusion to unlock something resembling God Ki. And he can definitely tell its energy is different than any other mortal he had ever felt. It's almost similar to the half breeds, but he wonders if, due to its nature as a fusion, it's a little different. They do end up sparring, but they do end up engaging in battle, but it only lasts for 5 minutes. But he does notice that he was even stronger than the half breed. But they do end up unfusing, and they do end up losing. But Beerus is much more satisfied. He tells them that he looks forward to seeing them again in the future, and he and Whis, they end up fucking off. But he makes the offer clear to all of them, if they want to obtain even higher levels of godly power, to come and train with him. Gohan and Piccolo decline. They want to continue their training on Earth, and they have the responsibility to protecting it. Piccolo as the former Kami, considering he absorbed Kami, and Gohan is just a protector of Earth. But Goku and Vegeta definitely do contemplate. They decide that they're going to discuss it with their wives. So they go home, and we're going to get into that time skip to the events of the Resurrection F. Yeah, we're gonna get into Resurrection F. Yeah, okay. So they are going to learn how to. Goku and Vegeta are still gonna go at the same time instead of going separately. They're gonna go and they're gonna learn how to attain Super Saiyan God for themselves. Neither of them ended up going through with the full Super Saiyan God ritual. Gohan is actually going to be pursuing the same training under the Kais with Piccolo to master the power of Super Saiyan God. That's going to be more part time, and if he's not training with Piccolo under the Kais to master his godly powers, then he is instead training Goten and Trunks in how to master the primal nature of Super Saiyan 4. And Frieza is still going to be resurrected, and he's still only going to go through his 4 months. Nothing is really going to change on his part. Goku and Vegeta, um, they end up developing into Super Saiyan gods, and they end up learning how to they start to make use of it in their base forms and make use of God Ki in their base forms. Maybe they're able to get the training done a little quicker, but they do eventually stumble upon Super Saiyan Blue, and similarly to how they did with Super Saiyan 3, they want to master this before trying to merge God Ki with Super Saiyan 4. So they're gonna be mastering Super Saiyan Blue. They're gonna be jumping headfirst into trying to master the transformation. Gohan is instead trying to properly master Super Saiyan God, and that's basically what he's going to be doing. He's going to be treating it like how he did with Super Saiyan so long ago. He's going to be walking around in it with his base form. Videl is kind of a little puzzled by this, but she's also kind of amused seeing her husband walk around with red hair and red eyes. She definitely finds it a little bit amusing. She liked how he always looked in Super Saiyan. He always looked so fierce. But she also likes how this allows him to be more relaxed and gentle. Of course, he could do the same in Super Saiyan. He mastered it a long time ago, but he normally used that kind of power in battle. So she comments how she kind of likes the new look, and that definitely gets him a little flustered. Pan is still going to be born, and when it comes to the events of Resurrection F, um, Goten and Trunks are actually able to solidly um, battle against. They're able to hold off Final Form Frieza. And then Piccolo and Gohan arrive. Piccolo has been furthering his ultimate power and has tapped into God Ki, and he has like the Namekian God power, which I'm pretty sure was like in one of those mobile games where it only really gave them red eyes, which I always noted that Orange Piccolo had red eyes, but here he learns how to use it in base and his ultimate state, and him, Ultimate Piccolo, and Super Saiyan 4 Gohan arrive to the scene. They tell Goten and Trunks to hit the showers. They've done enough. They arrive and they take care of Frieza easily enough. When he goes into his golden state, they just glance at each other, and Piccolo, his eyes go red, whereas Gohan relaxes into base before transitioning into his mastered Super Saiyan God power. And they burst forward and they end up completely handing they completely hand Frieza his ass to him on a silver platter. On a silver platter. There's no need for Goku and Vegeta to show up. They have been watching. They've been watching the entire time through Whis' staff, but they don't need to step in. And Frieza is blasted into nothingness before he can try to destroy the planet. And then everyone basically goes home. There's no need for any Goku and Vegeta show. They're just going to continue their mastery over Super Saiyan Blue. Now that I realize it, Dragon Ball Super is really easy to cover. I'm going to go ahead and cover the Universe 6 tournament as well. Um, but leading up to the Universe 6 tournament, um, once again, like I said, Goku and Vegeta have been mastering their usage of Super Saiyan Blue to the point that they have both achieved that mastered Super Saiyan Blue from the manga. It's not something. It's not like full power Super Saiyan in that it's a state that they reach. It's more like a further transformation where they contain all of their godly essence into themselves, and it's something they actually have to. It's like another stage of Super Saiyan Blue that they actually have to master even further. Um, and When it comes to the training in the hyperbolic time chamber, they decide to up the intensity. So when they end up jumping into the time chamber for 3 years, they come to Earth. They tell everyone about the Universe 6 tournament. Gohan manages to take a day off from his time at. He's able to take a day off. Maybe it happens over a weekend. So he's like, I'm gonna take this Friday off and next Monday off. Friday so that he can take off to begin the training in the time chamber, and Monday for the actual event of the Universe 6 tournament, just to make it a little easier. Goten and Trunks are told to stay in school; they can handle it. Um, Here they don't really need him, or maybe they do end up getting invited. Yeah, Goten and Trunks are going to be invited to it, and they're going to participate as a fused fighter. They've also learned the Metamorian fusion dance from Goku and Vegeta, and Bulma, after she saw Goku and Vegeta transform or fuse into Gogeta, and how quickly they ended up returning unfused, she ended up asking them about it. And when she learned that Goten and Trunks knew about it, she ended up developing that Metamo ring, that little Capsule Corp invention, so that they can keep it up for, we'll say, like about an hour, or they're able to keep it up as long as they want, and they can just snap it off. They can detach it from themselves and then unfuse. So she gives that to them, and they arrive as a fused fighter. And we can easily say that he ends up being the one to face. Gotenks is the one to face off against Frost, and they both end up. Gotenks is the one to start out first. Um, Gotenks is able to take out Botamo and then faces off against Frost, and they both end up getting eliminated when it's revealed that they both technically have outside help through their items. So they both end up getting eliminated. Um, Goku then take Piccolo decides to step in. He takes out Automagetta, and he faces off against Kaba, and tells him like about they. He learns a little bit more about the Saiyans of Universe 7, and he kind of decides to take the Vegeta approach. He really digs into his former King Piccolo personality. He's a little harsh on him, similarly to how he was with Gohan, and he pressures him into releasing the power of Super Saiyan before bursting forward with just his base, just like a normal Kaioken, even if he even needs it, to completely gut check Kaba and knock him out. Piccolo ends up facing off against Hit using his ultimate Namekian, and then he goes into his ultimate Namekian God state so that he can face off against them, and he breaks out the Kaioken, and the two of them end up about even, although Piccolo, with all of his experience with Kaioken, is able to take the win. The other Saiyans are a bit bummed, especially Gohan, that he took the day off and he didn't even get to fight. But especially since Goku and Vegeta learned how to use Kaioken on top of Mastered Super Saiyan Blue, it was the only way they could use it. Otherwise, the key control wouldn't be enough. The godly power would tear them apart with the Kaioken. But and Gohan himself was trying to do something similar. But either way, they end up accepting like well, it is what it is, and they end up they use the Beerus uses those Super Dragon Balls to revive Earth of Universe 6. And yeah, they end up all going to relax. Goku and Vegeta felt that they've done enough training for now, so they're going to relax on Earth for a bit, which Beerus is fine with. Maybe he gets a spar out of the two of them in their Master Super Saiyan Blue, and this is when they're able to break out the Kaioken, the Blue Kaioken. So they go into they first battle in Super Saiyan God, then in Mastered Super Saiyan Blue, and then they both bring out Kaioken times 20 from the beginning. Or maybe they start in times 10, but they're able to push it to times 20. And Beerus is absolutely elated that they've managed to get so powerful, but he makes it clear they're still not quite on his level just yet, and they're taken out. So next we jump into the Goku Black arc. Although instead of Goku Black, it's gonna be Gohan Black. Now you might be wondering why would it be Gohan Black? Well, it's simple. Zamasu wants it to kind of be some poetic justice. So even though he did only see the Namekian make use of such power, he's also aware of the fact that there was a Namekian god who created the Super Dragon Balls. So maybe he doesn't completely view him as a sinner, especially since he's apparently been training as an apprentice of Brain Kai. But either way, he is pissed at future Trunks, so he decides to take that Gohan, and he notices that Gohan was also there at the Universe 6 tournament. And maybe the fight against Goku and Vegeta versus Beerus ended up on GodTube, and they saw it. So that definitely still has Beerus pissed, or Zamasu pissed, and maybe he wants to take one of their bodies. But he notes that apparently Gohan, who was also at this tournament, and who may even be stronger than his own father, apparently this Gohan was also in Trunks' own timeline, his master. So he decides that would be some good justice. And when he ends up taking Gohan's body, Dragon Ball Super Gohan's body, oh, he is very, very happy with how much power it gives him. Yeah, and then he ends up going into Trunks' timeline, and that is where we're going to end it with Trunks fleeing from Gohan Black. Um, if you like what I've come up with in this new timeline and in this new story of mine of Dragon Ball, let me know how you feel about it. Let me know if you felt that maybe I made a few mistakes, if there's something you didn't like or that you don't think would have fit, maybe was a little bit inconsistent or not. You let me know, and like, comment, subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Hit that bell notification to be notified of whenever I post a new video. And yeah, if you're not even gonna bother leaving any constructive criticism, if all you want to do is be a dick, don't even bother. Go on ahead and just leave and find something else to do with your time. That'll be it for now, though. I'll see all of you in the next video. Bye bye.